For nearly the entire 2024 NBA draft cycle, Alexandre Sarr was at or near the top of everyone's big board. There wasn't a consensus number one, but when you kind of average everything out, Alexandre Sarr typically was at the top of that list. And for good reason. Throughout his NBL season, Sarr showed his immense physical tools, his extraordinary defensive versatility, and some really tantalizing offensive flashes. Now, unfortunately, that's all it was on the offensive end was flashes. So coming into Summer League, after going number two to the Washington Wizards, Sarr had a lot of expectations, and there were a lot of question marks about what type of player were we going to see. Were we going to see the player from the preseason showcase game against the Ignite, where he dominated every facet of the game, or were we going to see the guy who kind of went in and out of the offense while still showing fantastic defensive upside? And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to view it, we got the latter, where in Summer League, Sarr's defense was really good, but unfortunately, it got outshined by some really, really tough offensive stuff. And the biggest issue with the offense, he just couldn't make a shot. And that's kind of the pervasive theme throughout his entire NBL season. It wasn't necessarily just a cold couple games for him. Obviously, these were a bit more outlier where he just couldn't make anything. But despite the highlight film, Sarr wasn't exactly a great shooter all season. His offense and his scoring package has been very theoretical for most of his career, and that's okay. There's plenty to build on. So, what's the kind of issue with Sarr's shot? Is it really broken? Does he really need to overhaul it? Was it a mixture of some mechanical improvements needed with just a bad week? Let's take a look. First, we'll dive into some of the really, really good stuff that he did show on both on defense and offense. And then we're going to kind of dive more into the shooting struggles that he showed throughout Summer League. I'm Tyler Metcalf. Welcome to Film School. Let's dive in. So I want to start with the defensive stuff with Sarr at Summer League because it was really, really, really impressive. And that's been Sarr's calling card all year, even before this last season, was that he has immense defensive upside, and he really showed it. So on this one, he's playing off ball, and Atlanta's just going to run into this high comp pick and roll, little brush screen. Sarr's in drop coverage, defending the space, playing a little more kind of center field role, and his man's going to just slip the screen and roll hard to the rim. Now, from here, Sarr kind of gets caught in no man's land, and that's something that he'll clean up in time, where his positioning will get a little more ironed out here. But despite technically being maybe a step or two out of position, where he is kind of giving up this backdoor lob, he has the physical tools where it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because when this lob comes, the vast majority of defenders are beat on this play. Sarr's not most players on the defensive end. Most players don't move like Alex Sarr does, where his ability to flip his hips, reposition himself, and elevate to block that dunk, that is exceptional stuff from start to finish from him. So a little questionable on the initial positioning and space, kind of in no man's land here, but his awareness, his processing speed, and then just these special athletic tools that he possesses allow him to make a play that very, very few other players can. Sarr's defensive excellence wasn't just at the rim either. He also showed that he has the agility and the footwork and the athleticism to defend in space and switch in a lot of different situations. This is what you want out of a modern big on the defensive end, where every team switches so much. So again, just standard high pick and roll. Washington just immediately switches this. It'd be nice to see someone fight through a screen every now and then, but they switch this immediately. Sarr doesn't hesitate. He's super confident, even though he's going up against Reed Sheppard here, who is fantastic in Summer League. Sarr is unfazed. Sheppard does, he hits him with a series of moves, series of hesitations, but watch Sarr's feet, where he is always on balance here, slides his feet perfectly, pushes Shepard under the rim, and Sarr is never crossing his feet. He's never getting off balance and kind of exposing himself to these sudden changes in speed or direction. And he's able to just kind of usher Shepard under the rim. From here, Shepard can't do anything. Sarr has the athletic advantage, he has the length advantage, he has the size advantage. So if Shepard tried to go up for a reverse here, it's going to get swatted because Sarr has pinned him under the basket, and he has the length to just disrupt or just flat out block any shot that Shepard throws up here. Shepard does a really good job of just, doing that Nash dribble, keeping his dribble alive, tries to hit him with a little shoulder fake again. Nothing. Sarr continues to stay glued to him, and Shepard just kind of resorts to this mid-range fadeaway that Sarr gets a really good contest on. This isn't a late contest where he's flying in at the last second. He has his hand up. He's in Shepard's eye line the entire time, elevates. Shepard gets it off cleanly, but that's a really strong contest and a really good job of making life difficult for Shepard from start to finish. Shot bounces out. It's not really even that close, and that's all because of Sarr's ability to, from start to finish here, just switch the pick and roll and make life really, really difficult for the opposing ball handler. All right, and finally, Sarr kind of shows us his ability to recover and still protect the rim after switching out of the pick and roll. So from the start here, Klingen's going to set a really solid screen, forces Bub Carrington to kind of go over it, and Washington switches this against Kennedy. I believe that's Kennedy Chandler handling the ball, and Chandler does a really good job of kind of snaking back behind Klingen and using Klingen as kind of like a pseudo rescreen here and just following him as Klingen clears the way to the rim. As he attacks downhill, Sarr is a little slow to move his feet. Not move his feet, but to kind of fight through this traffic. He gets a little narrow in his stance, but good footwork, always on balance, and that foot speed allows him to kind of stay attached. Now he's in a similar position to what we just saw in that Reed Shepard clip, but in that clip, they were down here by the baseline, and right here, Kennedy Chandler looks like he has a wide open lane to the rim. Instead, Sarr doesn't panic. Sarr knows how big he is. He knows how athletic he is, and he's in perfect position to swat this shot. For a lot of players, they're out of the play here. But again, Sarr and his physical tools makes him pretty special on the defensive end. Chandler goes up. He might wish he would have dunked this. Would have been a hell of a dunk. But regardless, Sarr's able to locate the ball, avoids the foul, and pins it against the backboard. Really, really impressive stuff that his physical tools allow him to just recover in ways that most players can't. Now we're going to move into the offensive end, and we're going to start out with the good. I want to focus on the good before we get into some of the shooting struggles, and some of the best stuff that Sarr showed during Summer League was his passing, and we got some occasional flashes of that in the NBL, but this was, I thought, the best his passing has looked in quite some time. So as Champagny drives here, Sarr does a good job of just kind of flaring out and relocating to the perimeter to give him that extra space. Champagny's going to kick out and just barely avoids the off-ball steal here, or the deflection. And Sarr does a really good job of just immediately catching and attacking all of the space in the mid-range. As he attacks downhill, defense steps up to him, they rotate over, and Risache collapses down to try and cut off the drive if he continues. Sarr doesn't force it, though. Instead of taking a rushed mid-range jumper or driving into traffic, he's just processing where the defenders are going. So if we back it up just a little bit, we can see their kind of rotations fly out a little more. So this defender flies out to the top of the key to try and take away Kaishan George, and Sarr just takes the easy play. This is a really smart pass through the traffic because he's reading these weak side defenders, taking away that passing lane, collapsing down, taking away that passing lane and that driving lane, which means that his teammate's going to be wide open on the opposite wing. He delivers the pass right on target. John Butler's able to rise up smoothly, knock it down just one more time, full speed, so he can get a full sense of just the processing speed, passing accuracy on point. Really good stuff. On this one, Sarr shows us his ability to kind of create for others out of a more traditional area of the floor for a center, and just kind of in the flow. So this is kind of a fun play where I'm assuming that this isn't their primary action, or their primary goal out of this action, but it's an alternative based on how Risacher is guarding Champagny here. So from the start, Risacher is kind of playing ball denial here. Sarr is going to set this pin down. Doesn't really create any contact, unfortunately, and Risacher is still playing really strong ball denial. So instead of forcing a screen or whatever their initial action was, Carrington immediately adjusts, delivers this entry pass to Sarr, and Champagny is perfect with his timing here. As that pass comes in, he separates from Risacher, cuts to this now unoccupied lane, and Sarr is really in tune to what they're supposed to be doing here. Without hesitation, changes the angle, passes over his defender, finds Champagny, leads him perfectly to the rim before the weak side defender can rotate. Champagny catches in rhythm and finishes through the contact. So just good adjustment mid-set here, and really accurate passing and quick processing speed. Now let's dive into the shooting, and there'll be plenty of concerns and some bad tape that we'll dive into, but I want to start out with the good, because we did get some flashes from Sarr, like we did throughout the NBL season, of like, oh my God, this is a really dynamic shot creator at 7 feet tall with his athleticism. This could grow into something really fun. So let's focus on the fun first. And this mid-range pull-up is definitely one of them. Shows off his handle a little bit, shot fake, gets to his spot, gets his defender off his feet, allows him to kind of repivot, readjust back towards the middle of the floor, is now able to elevate before his defender can recover and get a real contest on the shot. He gets a late one in there, but the balls are essentially out already, and he drains it. This is smooth. This is really fluid stuff. This is why Wizards fans should be excited about Sarr's long-term potential on the offensive end, because he shows off stuff like this. If this can become a little more consistent, now we're talking about a guy who could be really, really fun. This time, Sarr really shows us some of that perimeter agility and fluidity that makes him so exciting, and that makes him that could make him an absolute menace for opposing bigs to deal with. So Washington's just going to kind of run a little DHO here. Sarr pitches it to Champagny, and it just turns into basically a side pick and pop situation here. So Sarr slips the screen. He's not a very good screener if you haven't caught on to that yet. Not a whole lot of physicality in his game. We'll get into more of that in a minute. But almost all of his screens are slipping or ghost screens. And for pick and pop situations like this one, it works. So as he pops to the top of the key, since there wasn't really any contact there, his defender does a good job of staying in tune and staying relatively attached. However, Sarr hits him with that little jab step, and since Sarr is such a good athlete who, for a lot of this game, was trying to attack the mid-range, it imbalances his defender all that more. He takes one escape dribble to his left, a little sidestep pull-up 3, maybe a 2. Toe might be on the line there, but he has now created more than enough space to get this shot off cleanly. Late contest, but his view, his eye line wasn't really obstructed at all. Gets the shot off clean. Mechanics look pretty good. This is really fluid, and if you're talking about a 5-out system, this is the type of stuff that is really fun going forward. Little hitch in the shot there, as he tries to power it to the rim. That'll become more of an issue in a couple clips coming up, but long term, again, you have to kind of think long term with Sarr here. That's a big time shot. And if he can continue to grow this type of stuff and be more consistent, just knocking down shots like this, he could be a really dynamic offensive weapon. I've delayed as long as I could. We got to get into some of the bad shooting stuff, and it was tough. It was a really, really, really awful shooting performance by Sarr in Summer League, unfortunately. Some of it was mechanical, a lot of it was shot selection stuff, but let's get into it. So right off the bat here, I mean, this is just a bad shot. 19 seconds left on the clock, early in the game, defenders right on him, no jab step to create space, hesitated a little bit off the catch here, allows the defender to close out a little more, has a hand up, and the bigger concern here is that we're going to see that little hitch. It's not much, it's pretty subtle, but right at the top, right there, there's that little hitch by Sarr that keeps popping up in that outside jumper. My gut instinct is that it's a strength issue and that he's trying to power and find that extra level to his shot to get it there, because a lot of these shots miss short. Plenty miss left and right too, but the common theme was that he was missing short a lot. So hopefully, as he continues to get stronger, that hitch goes away. These shots end up getting there a little more consistently. But from a shot selection standpoint and that hitch at the top, it's concerning and not a great start. On this one, I like the process of how he gets into a shot a little bit better, but we again can kind of see that little hitch at the top of his shot. So later in the shot clock here, good showcase of his handle, his footwork, step back. That's more than enough space. So I don't hate the shot selection from him. Kind of a late contest, but I think this is relatively a good look. The issue is that little extra oomph he tries to put into it at the top of his shot, and it just again signals that he may not be strong enough yet to be taking these shots. So maybe in a year or 2 or 6 months he's stronger and he's able to get that off a little cleaner. But we can see right at the top here, there's just a little extra hitch and kind of where he's trying to will the shot to the rim. Just something he needs to continue working out of his game. But this one felt more like a mechanical strength issue and less like a bad shot selection, bad shot creation issue. This one's just tough all around. Shot selection, shot creation, mechanics. This one was a bummer. So middle of the shot clock here, this is not a shot he needs to be taking. A little rip through. Defender does a good job of staying in front of him, and he just settles. The previous clip, he did a similar move, but defender was at the elbow by the time he was pulling up, and his defender's right on him. Defender's in really good position here, and Sarr, because of that, Sarr is now having to lean back a little more. The way the ball comes out of his hand, you can tell that it gets caught in his palm. So already he's not going to have enough power and strength on it to get it there, which has been a common theme with all of his shots already. So even that slight adjustment with the kind of ball location in his hand being stuck in his palm makes it all that much worse. We get a little bit of that hitch at the top too, and the ball doesn't even come close to hitting the rim. By the time that he's taking the shot, there is 14 seconds left on the clock. This is just really bad processing, shot selection, decision making from start to finish here. This one was pretty rough. And on this one, this is a good look for Sarr. No hesitation, kind of a pseudo pick and pop situation. It's something that it's a look that he should be getting a lot. But we again can kind of see that little hitch at the top, and directionally it is so far off where it's barely grazing the left side of the rim. So that tells us that it's coming out of his hand funky, that his release his follow through on his shot isn't straight on where it needs to be. There's too much directionality in it, and that is a really common theme with a lot of these misses. Again, as he's kind of that hitch, it's almost like he's releasing it late where it needs to be out now, and it's still kind of in his hand, comes out late, pushes it to the left. It's tough. When Sarr's shot goes in, it looks great, but his misses are really bad. And they're not consistent, where he's just struggling with the depth of the shot. It's they miss short, they miss left, they miss right, and it's stuff like this where this is a really clean look. I mean, Dante kind of gets a late contest here, but that's about as wide open of a look as you're going to get in the NBA, and he's barely hitting rim. It's concerning stuff with his shot because there's a foundation for him to build on there. But when you see him missing this badly and that open of a look, it's pretty concerning. Sarr has a lot of mechanical things that he has to clean up with his shot. But I do think that in time he'll be okay. One of my bigger concerns with him coming into the draft, though, was his lack of interior scoring and the lack of physicality, where his free throw numbers were really low for almost the entire season. And those kind of tendencies of avoiding physicality and not really knowing how to create his own shot or score through physicality, through contact at the rim, those all kind of popped up again at Summer League. So from here, he's in space, he's getting downhill, good stuff that he should be doing, but starts his takeoff incredibly far away. And Donovan Clingan is one of the best, if not the best, rim protectors in this entire draft, and will probably be one of the best young rim protectors in the league next year. So as he takes off, Clingan also has about 40, 50 pounds on Sarr. There is a significant strength disparity here between the two, and Sarr doesn't even try to challenge him. Instead, this is rushed. It's early in the shot clock. He takes off from too far away, and you'd like to see him try to elongate that second stride, maybe finish with an extension, create contact, draw a foul, because Clingan is in good position, but where he's coming from here, Sarr kind of, if he doesn't take off from this far away, there is a path to the lane, to the restricted area for him. Instead, taking off this far away, and then on the second step, he goes straight up and out to his left even a little bit more to make him even more off balance, and just throws up a wild floater that doesn't really have a chance of going in. And again, a lot of time on the clock. This just feels like a bad settle and resorting way too much to a finesse game, which he hasn't totally mastered yet. On this one, Sarr does a little better of a job kind of getting to the restricted area, but just the idea of incoming contact throws him off so much. So early offense, I like that he confidently and decisively attacks all this space. You love to see that because he has the defender backpedaling, and again, just kind of takes off from really far away. I know guys with this size cover a lot of ground really quickly, so not totally uncommon, but it's like he's been watching Giannis Eurostep highlight videos and is trying to emulate the same thing. Maybe in time he gets there, and Summer League is definitely the place to try all this out, but this is just a continuing issue when it comes to physicality. So as he elevates here, the defender barely makes contact, if that, does a good job of staying vertical, and Sarr just is totally thrown off by the lack of contact here. He doesn't go straight into the defender, and that this should at least be a foul that he should be drawing here, but by taking off so far away, by avoiding contact, by not going through the defender, and playing with that physicality that we're used to seeing from bigs, he just, again, throws up this wild floater that doesn't have any chance of going in. This was far from a perfect Summer League for Alex Sarr. The shooting was really bad. The shot selection was arguably worse. The lack of physicality continues to be concerning. But don't let that detract from how exciting of a player he still can be, because his defense was incredible from start to finish through Summer League, and at a minimum, the Wizards fans are probably going to be getting an incredibly versatile, athletic, and disruptive defender. We saw how effortlessly he moves in space. His fundamentals are on point. He knows how big, long, and athletic he is, so he never panics. Even when he looks like he's out of position, he's not. So defensively, what this summer league showed was that Alex Sarr is every bit the type of defender that he's been hyped up as. Don't worry about the defense. Even on offense, there was stuff to come away liking. The passing was really good. He's not going to be a primary creator. He shouldn't be a number one offensive creation option, but as a tertiary, someone who can keep the ball moving, connect one side of the floor to the other, find cutters, use his potential future scoring gravity to then create for others. There's a lot of upside there as well. Even some of the scoring stuff we got a few bits and pieces of that fans should be excited about. Sarr just has a lot of work to do when it comes to his mechanics. All season, his shooting and scoring was incredibly theoretical. The highlights look great, but the highlights always look great. When we look at the misses, we see shots that fall short, miss left, miss right, miss long. They're missing all over the place, and it's because of the mechanical inconsistencies with his shot. He has a bit of a hitch at the top. He falls out of his shot too frequently. The release angle of his hand is all over the place, and that causes the directional misses. He's got a lot to clean up, including needing to get stronger and deal with more physicality around the rim. If he's just going to be a perimeter-based player, okay, that's, it makes roster construction a little bit more difficult, and it also makes the necessity of his shot coming around all that more important. As a rookie, playing next to a guy like Jonas Valanciunas, who's going to handle all of that physicality and interior presence, could be awesome. It could be a blessing in disguise for him because he's not ready for that kind of stuff yet. But in time, as he gets stronger, as he figures out his game and where he thrives and cleans up some of those mechanical issues, there's still a ton of upside with Alex Sarr. So don't let this lackluster offensive display in Summer League dissuade you from being really excited about him. On the defensive end, he looks like a franchise defensive cornerstone with a ton of upside on the offensive end. So Alex Sarr, he fell short of expectations, but the intrigue and the excitement long-term for Wizards fans should still be incredibly high.